My wife handed me a death sentence on a Tuesday afternoon, right between her morning Pilates class and her therapy session with her boss. Stage 4 lung cancer. 6 months, maybe 12 if I got lucky. The cruel part? I thanked her for being there. The envelope was heavier than it should have been, like it was weighted with more than paper. Grace set it on the kitchen table between us, that old oak table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, planned vacations, talked about the kids we'd never gotten around to having. Her hand was steady. Mine wasn't. "I went to pick up your test results," she said. Her voice had that careful quality, like she was narrating a nature documentary about something tragic but inevitable. "Dr. Chen wanted me to be there when you got the news." Dr. Chen. I didn't remember a Dr. Chen. I remembered Dr. Patel, my primary care physician. The guy who'd given me a clean bill of health at my physical 6 weeks ago. The guy who'd told me my lungs looked great for a non-smoker who'd never touched a cigarette in his life. I opened the envelope. The letterhead said St. Luke's Regional Medical Center Oncology Department. There was my name, Mark Thompson, date of birth correct, and then words that didn't feel real. Adenocarcinoma. Stage 4, metastatic. Prognosis, 6 to 12 months. 6 months, I said. The number didn't feel real. It felt like a foreign language I'd have to learn. Grace's hand covered mine, cold, not trembling with shared grief, not warm with the heat of tears coming, just cold, like a marble countertop in winter. "We'll fight this," she said, "together." I looked at her face. Grace, my wife of 12 years, the woman I'd met at a friend's barbecue, the one who'd laughed at my terrible history jokes, who'd said yes when I proposed at that overlook in Rocky Mountain National Park. Her makeup was perfect, not a smudge. Her eyes were dry. "I don't understand," I managed. "I feel fine. I ran 3 miles yesterday. I don't even have a cough." "Sometimes that's how it is," Grace said. She slid a second paper across the table. Treatment options, clinical trials, cost estimates. The numbers swam. 50,000, 80,000. Our savings account had 47,000, built up over 12 years of teaching high school history at 38,000 a year. "We'll figure it out," she said. I held the diagnosis in my hands. The paper was glossy, almost too glossy. Hospital paperwork usually came on that cheap copy paper that felt rough, institutional. This felt like it came from a home printer. But I wasn't thinking clearly. My brain was white noise and that number. 6 months. Grace's hand on mine felt cold, not trembling, just cold. That night I couldn't sleep. Grace could. She was on her side, breathing slow and even, like this was just another Tuesday. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, doing math I didn't want to do. 6 months? Christmas, but probably not next summer, maybe not even spring. I got up, walked to the kitchen, stood at the counter where the envelope still sat. My grandfather's watch sat on my wrist. I'd worn it every day since he died 10 years ago. 1965 Omega, leather band worn soft as silk, the caseback engraved. Make every second count. Grandpa Joe, 1987. That was the year I turned 16, the year he told me time was the only thing you couldn't buy more of. I wound the watch. 1 full turn. The ticking sounded loud in the silent kitchen. The next morning, Grace made coffee. She was dressed for work, crisp white blouse, gray slacks, her marketing manager uniform. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. "I've been thinking," she said. She set a mug in front of me, my favorite mug, the one that said "World's Okayest Teacher" that my students had given me. "We need to talk about us." Us. That word felt heavier than the diagnosis. "Okay," I said. Grace sat down across from me. She folded her hands on the table. Corporate meeting posture. "Mark, I love you, you know that. But we need to be realistic about what's coming." I waited. The watch ticked. 6 months, she said. "Maybe 12, and then I'll be alone." Her voice cracked perfectly on alone. I'll be 35 years old and starting over, and I need to know I'm going to be okay, that I won't be completely alone. Your sister lives 20 minutes away, I said. Your mom... That's not what I mean. She reached across the table, took my hand. I mean romantically, emotionally. I mean, Mark, I want to open our marriage. The coffee in my stomach turned cold. Just for me, she continued quickly. Not you. You're dealing with too much already. But I need to know that when you're gone, I'll have someone. That I won't be starting from zero. She squeezed my hand. You want me to be happy, don't you? You don't want me to be alone after. I looked at her face, searched for something. I don't know what. Maybe a sign that she was joking. Maybe tears. Maybe anything that looked like the Grace I'd married. I don't know, I said. Think about it, she said. She stood up, kissed my forehead. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to survive what's coming. You, of all people, should understand that. She left for work. Her perfume lingered. Chanel No. 5, the same scent she'd worn on our first date. I sat at the table with my cooling coffee and my grandfather's watch, and a question I never thought I'd have to answer. Do you let your wife find your replacement while you're still breathing? I wound the watch again. The ticking sounded like a countdown. 2 days later, I said yes. God help me, I said yes. Not because I wanted to, not because I thought it was right, but because Grace had looked at me with those eyes and said, I just want to be happy, Mark. Don't I deserve to be happy? And what was I supposed to say to that? No? You don't deserve happiness because I'm dying? No, you should suffer with me? So I said yes. I said yes because I loved her. Because 12 years of marriage had taught me that her happiness mattered. Because I was drowning and she was asking for a life raft, and I didn't have the strength to say she couldn't have one. She kissed my forehead like I was already a memory. If you've ever agreed to something that felt wrong, just to prove your love, just to show you weren't selfish, you know this feeling. You know what it's like to say yes when everything in your body is screaming no. You're not alone in that mistake. Grace moved fast. Within a week, she'd reconnected with someone. His name was Richard Wilson, her boss, CEO of the boutique marketing firm where Grace had worked for the past 3 years. He's been incredibly supportive, Grace said. We were in the car, driving to meet him for coffee. He knows what we're going through. He wants to help. I knew Richard Wilson by reputation only. Married, 2 kids, drove a Tesla, the kind of guy who posted on LinkedIn about disrupting the marketing paradigm and synergizing stakeholder engagement. The coffee shop was in Cherry Creek, expensive Denver suburb, the kind of place where a latte cost $7 and came with foam art. Grace and I arrived first. She checked her phone, smiled at something, put the phone face down on the table. Richard walked in 5 minutes later, tall, fit in that way that meant he had time for a personal trainer, gray at the temples, expensive watch, looked like a Rolex. Mark, he said, extending his hand, I'm so sorry about what you're going through. His grip was firm, practiced. I shook his hand and felt like I was signing something I couldn't read. Grace has told me so much about you, Richard continued. He sat down next to Grace, not across from her, next to her. You're incredibly brave to be handling this the way you are. I'm not handling anything, I said. I'm just here. Richard smiled, sympathetic, understanding, the smile of a man who'd practiced empathy in a mirror. Grace mentioned you've made the very mature decision to open your relationship during this time. That takes real love, real selflessness. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? Thanks for noticing my selflessness while you move in on my wife. Grace touched Richard's arm, just a brief touch. Casual, but the kind of casual that isn't casual at all. Richard's been helping me process a lot of emotions. she said. He's a really good listener. I try, Richard said. He flagged down the barista. The usual for you, Grace? The usual. He had a usual for her. I watched him order. Oat milk latte, 1 pump vanilla, extra hot. That was Grace's order. I'd been getting her coffee for 12 years, and sometimes I still forgot if she wanted 1 pump or 2. Richard ordered for her. He knew she took oat milk. The 3 of us sat there in that expensive coffee shop, making small talk about nothing. Richard asked about my teaching. I told him about my AP U.S. history class, about the kids struggling with essay formats. Grace's phone buzzed. She checked it, smiled, put it back down. 20 minutes in, Richard checked his watch. I have a meeting at 3, he said. But Grace, we're still on for next week, right? The conference? Conference? I asked. Marketing Summit in Scottsdale, Grace said quickly. 2 nights, I mentioned it. She hadn't mentioned it. It's a great opportunity for professional development, Richard said. He stood up, shook my hand again. Mark, truly, you're an inspiration. The way you're handling this, the way you're putting Grace's needs first, that's real love. He left. Grace watched him go. He seems nice, I said. He is nice, Grace said. He's been amazing through all of this. We drove home in silence. I wound my grandfather's watch at a stoplight. Grace checked her phone, smiled at something. I didn't ask what. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. The coffee order. The casual way Richard knew exactly what Grace wanted. The way she touched his arm. The conference I hadn't heard about, but I was dying. 6 months, maybe 12? And Grace deserved to be happy, didn't she? A week later, Grace came home with a notebook, yellow legal pad, the kind lawyers use. She set it on the kitchen table with the kind of ceremony usually reserved for important documents. I made us a bucket list, she said. She was smiling, excited. Things we should do. Things you should do before, before I died. That's what meant. I opened the notebook, her handwriting, purple ink, 17 items numbered in her neat script. Number 1, Grace gets to Santorini, not we go to Santorini, not visit Greece together. Grace gets to Santorini. I kept reading. Number 2, Grace joins upscale gym, lifetime fitness membership. Number 3, update wardrobe. Grace needs professional reinvention. Number 4, spa weekend at Gateway Canyons. Grace's stress relief critical. Number 5, Denver Botanical Gardens membership. Grace's meditation space. I stopped reading, looked up. Grace was watching me with that expression people get when they're waiting for approval. This is your bucket list, I said. Our bucket list, she corrected. Things we need to do. Number 1 is you getting to Santorini. Well, yes, you're not going to be able to travel internationally, Mark, not with your condition, but I can go and take photos and tell you all about it. Live it for both of us. The bucket list had 17 items. 16 were about Grace. 1 was about me. Number 17, cremation. Most affordable option, research Neptune Society. Even in my death, I was the budget line. When did you write this? I asked. Last night, after you went to bed. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything we won't get to do, and I needed to make a plan. She reached for my hand. You want me to be okay after you're gone, right? These are things that will help me be okay. The bucket list smelled like her perfume. Chanel number 5. The scent I used to love. Now it just smelled like theft. But I was dying. 6 months, maybe 12. And if Santorini helped Grace cope with losing me, who was I to say no? I looked at number 1 again. Santorini was highlighted in yellow. Circled 3 times. The pen had pressed so hard the paper was grooved. Okay, I said. Grace smiled, kissed my forehead. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for always putting me first. The bucket list had 17 items. 16 were about her. The bank statement arrived on a Thursday. I was alone when I opened it. Grace was at work, or with Richard. The lines were starting to blur. Chase Bank, joint checking and savings. I scanned down to the savings account line. Balance, $247.53. We'd had $47,000 in that account 2 weeks ago. $47,000 saved over 12 years of teaching salaries and her marketing manager income and careful budgeting and skipping vacations to build a cushion. I called the bank. The representative, a woman named Jennifer with a kind voice, pulled up the transaction history. Yes, Mr. Thompson, I see a withdrawal here. September 20th, $47,000, wire transfer. To where? Mediterranean Luxury Resorts. The memo line says deposit, premium Santorini package. The room tilted. When was this withdrawal authorized? I asked. September 20th. That's the same day as your diagnosis date according to our records. Your wife has equal authorization on this account, so the transaction was approved. September 20th. The same day Grace brought home the envelope. The same day she told me I had 6 months to live. The same day she handed me a death sentence. She'd withdrawn our life savings the same day she told me I was dying. I hung up, sat at the kitchen table, stared at the bank statement. That line. Wire transfer, Mediterranean Luxury Resorts, $47,000. The number had so many zeros. Each one felt like a year I wouldn't see. Grace came home at 6. I was still sitting at the table. The bank statement in front of me. Hey, she said. She set down her purse, noticed the paper. Oh, you got the statement. You took $47,000, I said. For Santorini, she said. Like this was obvious. Like this was reasonable. The premium package, it's a deposit. The rest is due 30 days before travel. That was our savings. Was our savings, Mark. You're not going to need savings. Her voice was patient, explaining to a child. You're not going to need a retirement fund or an emergency cushion or any of that, but I am, and Santorini is part of my healing process. You want me to heal, don't you? That money was for treatments, I said, for trying to fight this. Grace sat down across from me, took my hands. Honey, there is no fighting this. You have 6 months, maybe 12. No amount of money is going to change that, but money can help me survive losing you. Money can give me experiences that will help me process this grief. I looked at her face, searched for something, guilt, shame, recognition that taking a dying man's life savings was wrong. I didn't find it. The deposit date was the same day I got my diagnosis, I said. Grace blinked. Once. Is it? I didn't notice. I've been planning the trip for a while. The timing just worked out. She stood up, kissed the top of my head. I'm making pasta for dinner. Your favorite. Carbonara. She walked to the kitchen, started pulling out pans. Like we'd just discussed what color to paint the bathroom, not the fact that she'd stolen $47,000 the day I learned I was dying. I sat there with the bank statement. That line. September 20th. The deposit date was the same day I got my diagnosis. I started noticing things after that, small things, the kind of details you miss when you're drowning but see clearly when you start looking up. Grace was packing, not obviously, but I'd find suitcases open in the spare bedroom, beach clothes folded, sundresses I'd never seen her wear, designer tags still on. For Scottsdale, she said when I asked. The conference. In November? They have pools. Resort wear is encouraged. She bought a new phone case. Expensive. She used to keep her phone face up on the counter. Now it was always face down. Always on silent. Always just out of reach. She started going to the gym. Not our gym. A different one. Lifetime Fitness. Item number 2 on the bucket list. She came home energized, glowing. She'd shower immediately, change clothes, put her gym clothes directly in the wash. Richard's a member there too, she mentioned once, casual. We run into each other sometimes. I was sitting in the garage one afternoon, sorting through boxes Grace had pulled down. She was decluttering, getting ready for the next chapter, her words. One box was labeled Mark's Things. I opened it. My grandfather's watch was inside, the Omega, the one I wore every day, the one with the engraving. Make every second count. Grandpa Joe, 1987. I lifted it out. The leather band was still warm from my wrist. I'd taken it off that morning to shower. Grace must have grabbed it then. Underneath the watch, my high school yearbooks, my teaching awards, a photo of my mom and dad on their wedding day, my grandpa's dog tags from Korea, all the things that said Mark Thompson existed, all packed in a donation box. I put the watch back on, wound it. The ticking sounded like a warning. Grace came into the garage with another box, saw me holding the watch. "Oh, you found that?" she said. "I was organizing, streamlining, you know. You were donating my grandfather's watch. Well, you won't need it. After, and it's valuable. Someone else could enjoy it. Grandpa Joe would want that, right? He'd want it to be used, not sitting in a drawer for years." "I'm not dead yet," I said. Grace looked at me, really looked at me, like she was surprised I was still there, still breathing, still attached to physical objects and memories and time. "Not yet?" she said. "But soon." She left, took her box with her. I sat in the garage holding my grandfather's watch, the one that said, "Make every second count." She was donating my time before I could even finish counting it. The pharmacy was quiet on a Wednesday afternoon. I was picking up prescriptions, not real prescriptions, not yet. But Grace had insisted I start taking preventative supplements, vitamin C, vitamin D, something called CoQ10 that cost $40 a bottle. I was waiting at the counter when I heard a voice. Mark Thompson?" I turned. A woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, wearing a white coat. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "I'm sorry," I said. "Do we know each other?" "Dr. Elena Martinez. I think we met at a fundraiser a few years ago. The Children's Hospital Gala? You were there with your wife." "Oh, right." I didn't remember, but I smiled anyway. Dr. Martinez was looking at me with a puzzled expression. "How are you? I thought I heard..." She trailed off. That careful silence people use when they want to ask if you're dying, but don't want to be rude. "I'm okay," I said automatically. "That's good. That's really good." She was still looking at me with that puzzled expression. "I'm sorry, this is awkward, but I heard through the medical community grapevine that you were dealing with a serious diagnosis." "Lung cancer," I said. The words still felt foreign. "Stage 4, Dr. Martinez frowned. "Lung cancer, I'm so sorry. Who's your oncologist?" "Dr. Chen at St. Luke's." Her frown deepened. "Dr. Chen, I don't think I know a Dr. Chen in oncology at St. Luke's. I consult there regularly." "What's the first name?" I don't actually know. My wife handled all the appointments." Dr. Martinez was still frowning. "Well, I hope you're getting good care. Do you have your medication with you? What are they starting you on?" I pulled out the orange bottles, the ones Grace had picked up last week. "These, I think they're chemo support." Dr. Martinez took one of the bottles, read the label. Her frown became something else, something that made my stomach drop. "Mark, this is vitamin B12. This isn't chemotherapy support. This is just supplements." "Maybe they're starting slow," I said, but my voice sounded uncertain even to my own ears. Dr. Martinez was looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Concern, confusion, something that looked like alarm. "Mark, would you mind if I looked at your medical records? I'm an oncologist. I could review your case, maybe suggest..." "You're an oncologist?" "Yes, 23 years. I specialize in lung cancer." She held up the vitamin bottle. "And I've never prescribed B12 as a chemotherapy support medication. Not in this dose. Not like this." The pharmacy suddenly felt very cold. Dr. Martinez looked at my pill bottle like it was written in a foreign language. I met Dr. Martinez 3 days later. Not at St. Luke's, not anywhere Grace might see. A small clinic in Lakewood where Dr. Martinez did consulting work on Fridays. She'd pulled strings, called in favors, gotten me a full workup in 3 days, CT scan, blood work, pulmonary function tests, the real tests, the ones that would show if I was actually dying. I sat in her office, small, cramped, diplomas on the wall, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, 23 years of saving lives. Dr. Martinez had a folder in front of her, thick. She opened it slowly. "Mark," she said, "I need to show you something." She pulled out 2 pieces of paper, set them side by side. "This," she said, pointing to the left, "is the report your wife gave you. The one that says stage 4 adenocarcinoma." I looked at it. The same report I'd been carrying in my mind for 3 weeks. The death sentence. "And this," Dr. Martinez said, pointing to the right, "is your actual CT scan from this week." I looked at the second report, the real one. The letterhead was different. The paper was different. That institutional roughness I remembered. Dr. Martinez's signature at the bottom, wet ink, real. Her finger moved down the page. No masses, no nodules, no shadows, no disease. I couldn't breathe. "Your lungs are perfectly clear, Mr. Thompson," she said. "I don't know who gave you that first report, but it didn't come from any oncologist I know." She slid the fake report across to me. "Look at the letterhead." I looked. St. Luke's Regional Medical Center looked right. "Now look at a real one." She pulled out another sheet. Official St. Luke's letterhead. The logo was slightly different. The font was off by maybe 2 points. The address listed different. "This is a forgery," Dr. Martinez said. "Not a good one, once you know what you're looking for. The signature, see here? Dr. Chen doesn't exist in our oncology department. Never has. And the paper stock is wrong. This came from a home printer, not a hospital. The letterhead was wrong. The signature was wrong. Everything was wrong. Mr. Thompson, your lungs are perfectly clear." She said it like it was good news, like I should be happy. But all I could think was, Grace knew. Grace had to know. You don't accidentally get a fake cancer diagnosis. You don't accidentally forge a medical report. You don't accidentally wire $47,000 the same day you hand your husband a death sentence. "Mark?" Dr. Martinez was watching me. "Do you understand what I'm saying? You're not dying. You're completely healthy." "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded far away. "I understand. I wasn't dying. I'd already died. 6 months ago when she printed that fake report, I didn't go home. I drove, nowhere, everywhere, windows down, October air cold. I ended up at a park, the one where I'd proposed to Grace 13 years ago, overlook facing the mountains. I sat on the same bench, pulled out my phone, looked at photos, our wedding, Grace in white, me in that rented tux, her smile, my smile, both of us believing in forever. I scrolled forward, vacations, Christmases, ordinary Tuesdays, Grace making coffee, Grace laughing at something on her phone, Grace asleep on the couch. When had it changed? When had she stopped seeing me as a husband and started seeing me as an obstacle? My phone buzzed. Text from Grace. "Where are you? Dinner's ready." I looked at those 3 words. Dinner's ready. Like this was a normal day. Like she hadn't forged medical documents and stolen our savings and started planning my funeral while I was still breathing. I texted back, "Working late, don't wait up." I sat on that bench until dark, wound my grandfather's watch, listened to it tick. For the first time in months, I felt alive. Ironic, since I was pretending to die. I went home at midnight. Grace was asleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom watching her breathe. Slow, even, peaceful. No guilt disturbing her dreams. I went to the spare bedroom, the one that used to be the future nursery before we'd stopped talking about kids. Now it was Grace's office. Her laptop was on the desk. I knew her password, our anniversary. 08/14/12. I opened the laptop, checked her browser history first, she cleared it, checked her email next. Nothing in the main inbox, but she had folders, lots of folders. One was labeled travel. I clicked it. Santorini confirmations, Mediterranean luxury resorts, premium package, 2 weeks, beachfront suite, couples massage, private yacht charter, departure date, November 15th. That was 3 weeks away, right after the Scottsdale conference. There was no Scottsdale conference. I kept clicking, found another folder. RL. I opened it. Emails between Grace and Richard, hundreds of them, going back months, long before my diagnosis. I started reading July 18th, 2024. Subject after MT. Grace. I've been thinking about what you said, about starting fresh, but I can't just leave. The house alone is worth $680K, plus his teacher pension, the life insurance policy. Richard. How much life insurance? Grace. $500K through the school district. I'm the beneficiary. Richard. So we're talking about 1.2 team members total, give or take, minus the mortgage. Grace. About $1 free and clear once he's gone. Once he's gone. Not if something happens, not God forbid, once he's gone. Like it was inevitable, like it was planned. I scrolled up, found earlier emails, July 3rd, 2024. Richard, you deserve to be happy, Grace. You deserve someone who sees your potential, who wants the same things you want. Grace, I know, but Mark's a good man. I can't just abandon him. Richard, I'm not asking you to abandon him. I'm asking you to think about your future, our future. June 20th, 2024. Grace, he's content with his little teacher life, small house, small dreams. I'm suffocating. Richard, you don't have to suffocate. There are options. Grace, what options? Divorce. He'd get half of everything I've built. Richard, not necessarily. There are ways to protect assets, especially if there's a reason for expedited proceedings. Grace, like what? Richard, serious illness, terminal diagnosis. Courts move fast on those. Settlement tends to favor the surviving spouse. Less fight, more sympathy. I stopped reading, looked at the date. June 20th, 3 months before my diagnosis. 3 months before Grace handed me that envelope. Email dated 3 months before my diagnosis. She'd been killing me long before the fake cancer. I kept reading, found more. Grace researching medical report templates. Grace asking Richard about printer paper weight. Grace looking up oncologists in other states, far enough away that I'd never accidentally run into them. Found one from September 18th, 2 days before my diagnosis. Grace. It's ready, St. Luke's letterhead. Stage 4 diagnosis, 6-month prognosis. I'll give it to him Tuesday. Richard. Are you sure about this, once you start? Grace. I'm sure. It's the only way. He's too healthy to wait for something real. This moves things forward, sets the timeline. Richard. What if he wants a second opinion? Grace. He won't. He trusts me. He'll believe whatever I tell him. I sat there in the glow of the laptop screen, reading my own murder, planned in emails, executed with fake medical reports. All so Grace could get to Santorini with her boss. The room was spinning. I closed the laptop, walked to the bathroom, threw up. When I came back, Grace was standing in the doorway. You're home, she said. I didn't hear you come in. Yeah, I managed. Just got here. She was looking at me, really looking. Are you okay? You look pale. I'm dying, Grace, remember? Right. She came closer, touched my forehead, checking for fever, playing the devoted wife. Come to bed, you need rest. I followed her to our bedroom, lay down next to the woman who'd forged my death certificate, who'd planned my funeral, who'd calculated my life insurance payout. Grace fell asleep in minutes. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, doing new math. Not how many months I had left, how many moves until checkmate. I bought a voice recorder the next day, tiny thing, size of a USB drive, 48-hour battery. I tested it at school during my planning period. Testing 123, Mark Thompson, October 28th. Played it back, crystal clear. That night, Grace went to the gym, left her purse on the counter. I slipped the recorder into the side pocket, the one she never checked, the one full of old receipts and lip gloss tubes. She came home 2 hours later, glowing, showered immediately. I retrieved the recorder while she was asleep, listened with headphones in the garage. First 20 minutes, gym sounds, treadmill, weights clinking, her breathing heavy with exertion, then her phone ringing. She answered. Hey. Her voice, soft, the way she used to talk to me. Hey. Richard's voice. I recognized it from the coffee shop. I just finished. God, I needed that workout. Yeah? Work out some frustration? Grace laughed. You have no idea. He's been so clingy lately, following me around, asking questions. He's dying, Grace. He's scared. He's not dying, not really, not yet, but he's acting like it, and it's exhausting. I can't wait for this to just be over. My hands were shaking. I paused the recording, breathed, pressed play again. How long do you think? Richard asked. 6 months, maybe 8 if we're unlucky. Then everything's ours. The house, the insurance, freedom. Richard laughed. Freedom? God, I can't wait to wake up next to you without sneaking around. Soon, Grace said. Just have to get through the next few months, play the grieving wife, then we can start over. Santorini first, though. Definitely Santorini first. I've been looking at villas. There's one right on the caldera. Private infinity pool. We could stay a month if we wanted. On his dime. On our dime, Grace corrected. Once he's gone, it's all ours. There was a pause. Then Grace again. I should go. He'll wonder where I am. Tell him you were working out. I was working out, just in ways he doesn't need to know about. They both laughed. The recording continued. Grace's car starting, her singing along to the radio, happy, carefree, planning my death with her lover like people plan dinner. 6 months, maybe 8 if we're unlucky, then everything's ours. I sat in the garage listening to that laugh, that casual, easy laugh. The laugh of someone who'd made peace with killing her husband, not with violence, with lies, with forged paperwork and stolen savings and time running out. They were counting down my life like a calendar, like a prison sentence ending, like freedom. I downloaded the recording to my laptop, backed it up 3 times, labeled the file, Evidence 01, Grace Summer Richard, October 28, MP3. Evidence, I was building a case, not against an enemy, against my wife. If you've ever had to investigate someone you love, ever had to gather proof of your own betrayal, you know this feeling. You know what it's like when trust dies and all that's left is strategy. What would you do? Confront now, get the fury out, risk her destroying evidence, or stay silent, let her expose herself further, build an airtight case. Think about it, option A or B. I kept the recorder in Grace's purse for 3 more days, gathered hours of recordings. Most of it was boring, calls with clients, lunch with coworkers, normal life, but buried in the boring, gold. November the 1st, Grace on the phone with Richard again. I told him I needed space, that I needed to process my grief privately. He actually apologized for being too needy. Richard, he apologized? Grace, he apologized for dying slowly. Can you believe that? Richard, that's actually sad. Grace, that's pathetic, but useful. He's giving me all the space I need to plan. I've been writing his eulogy. Richard, you're writing his eulogy now? Grace, might as well. I know what I want to say about how he'd want me to be happy, how he'd want me to move on, setting up the narrative. When the time comes, everyone will think I'm the devoted widow who honored his wishes. Richard, you're terrifying. Grace, I'm practical. I listened to that recording 5 times, wrote down every word, time-stamped it, added it to the evidence folder. Grace was writing my eulogy while I was still alive, while I was still here, still breathing, still watching her plan my funeral like people plan vacations. I started faking symptoms. If Grace wanted me dying, I'd give her dying. Just enough to keep her confident, just enough to make her sloppy. I bought dark circles makeup from a theater supply store, applied it under my eyes, lost 5 pounds in a week. Not hard when you can't eat without wanting to vomit. Started walking slower, sitting down more, breathing heavier after stares. Grace noticed. "Honey, you look terrible," she said. She touched my forehead, concerned. The perfect wife. "Are you feeling worse?" "Just tired," I said, "all the time tired." "Maybe you should rest more. Stop working so hard." "Can't. Kids need me." Grace nodded, sympathetic. "You're so dedicated, even now. That's what I'll remember about you, how you never gave up." Future tense wrapped in past tense. I'll remember, like I was already a memory. I kept faking, bought a notebook, left it on my nightstand. Declined journal, written on the cover, filled it with symptoms I looked up online. Weight loss, fatigue, night sweats, coughing fits. Left it where Grace would find it. She found it. I knew because I marked the page before I went to work. When I came home, it was open to a different page. She'd been reading it. That night, she posted on Facebook, photo of me sleeping on the couch. I wasn't sleeping. I was watching her through slitted eyes, watching her stage the shot, adjust the lighting, get the angle right. Caption, cherishing every moment with this incredible man. Mark's courage in facing his diagnosis inspires me every day. So grateful for the time we have. Checker cancer sucks. Cherish every moment. My hero. Grace posted a photo of me sleeping. Caption, cherishing every moment. 47 likes. 47 people clicked like on my staged death. Grace screenshotted the comments, saved them in a folder on her desktop. Widow evidence, she'd labeled it. She was building her alibi in real time, crafting the narrative, the devoted wife, the supportive partner, the woman who stood by her dying husband, all of it for an audience of insurance adjusters and sympathetic friends, and anyone who might question why she moved on so fast after I was gone. I called Brian Davis on November 5th. Brian was my college roommate, my best man at my wedding, also a lawyer. Corporate litigation mostly, but he knew his way around family law. "Mark," Brian said when he answered, "Hey man, Grace told me about your diagnosis. I'm so sorry. If you need anything..." "I need a lawyer," I said. Silence. Then, "What? Can you meet me? Not at your office, somewhere private." "Mark, what's going on?" "I can't talk about it on the phone. Can you meet me or not?" Another pause. "Where?" "Washington Park, south entrance, 1 hour." "Okay, yeah, I'll be there." I hung up, drove to the park, waited on a bench, watched kids playing soccer, families walking dogs, normal people living normal lives, not gathering evidence that their spouse was planning to kill them. Brian showed up in running clothes, trying to look casual. He sat down next to me. "Talk," he said. I handed him the folder, 3 inches thick. Medical reports, fake and real, side by side. Bank statements, email printouts, voice recording transcripts, timeline. Everything. Brian opened the folder, started reading. His face changed, went from confused to horrified to professionally blank. Lawyer face. He read for 10 minutes, didn't say a word. Finally, he closed the folder. "Jesus Christ, Mark." "Yeah." "This isn't just divorce," Brian said. "This is fraud. This is theft. This is Jesus. She forged medical documents. She stole $47,000 under false pretenses. She's planning life insurance fraud." "Can we prove it?" Brian opened the folder again, flipped through. "The medical records alone are enough for fraud charges. Felony, fraud. The bank statements show financial abuse. The recordings..." He looked at me. "Are these legally obtained?" Colorado's a one-party consent state. I can record conversations I'm part of. The recordings were made by a device in her purse. She was having conversations where she mentioned me. I'm a party to those conversations. You've done your research. I've had time. Brian closed the folder. This is airtight, Mark. This is prosecutable if you want to go that route. I want to go whatever route makes sure she can't do this to someone else. Fair enough. Brian pulled out his phone, made a note. First, we file for divorce. Fraud clause. She gets nothing. Second, we go to the DA with the medical forgery. That's felony fraud. Third, we contact the insurance company. Life insurance fraud is federal. What about Richard? Richard Wilson, her boss? Brian smiled. He's an accessory. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Plus, I'm guessing he's married? 2 kids. Then his wife deserves to know too. Brian looked at me. Really looked at me. Mark, are you okay? Like actually okay? Because this is a lot. I'm not dying, Brian. For the first time in months, I'm not dying. But your marriage is. My marriage died in July when she sent that first email. I'm just cleaning up the corpse. Brian put his hand on my shoulder. What do you want to do? Public exposure, quiet settlement, criminal charges. I thought about Grace. Grace counting the donation money that hadn't been donated yet. Grace writing my eulogy while I was still breathing. Grace laughing with Richard about when I'd finally be gone. I want justice, I said. I want everyone to see who she really is. Brian nodded. Then we're going to need a plan. Brian closed the folder. This isn't just divorce, Mark. This is fraud. This is theft. This is Jesus. Grace started talking about a party. A celebration, she said. A celebration of life event. For you, while you're still here. We were having dinner. Pasta. She'd made my favorite. Carbonara. Like that would soften the blow of planning my funeral while I was still eating solid food. A what? I asked. A party, not a funeral, a celebration where everyone who loves you can come together and tell you what you mean to them. Before, she trailed off, meaningful pause. Before it's too late. A living funeral. Not a funeral, a celebration. Grace reached across the table, took my hand. Mark, people want to help. They want to do something. I've had so many people reach out asking how they can support us. This would give them a way to show their love. By coming to my pre-funeral, by celebrating your life while you're still here to hear it. She squeezed my hand. And honestly, we could use the help. Medical expenses are adding up. If people want to contribute, you want to fundraise my death. Grace's face flickered, just for a second. Annoyance breaking through the devoted wife mask. Then smooth again. I want to let our community support us. There's no shame in accepting help. I looked at her face. Grace. My wife. The woman I'd trusted for 12 years. She was planning to collect donations for my fake cancer, to pocket money from friends and family who thought they were helping me survive. Okay, I said. Grace smiled. Genuine smile. Real happiness. Really? Really. Let's do it. Let's celebrate my life before I lose it. Thank you for understanding. She stood up, came around the table, kissed the top of my head. I'll start planning. Maybe 3 weeks? That gives us time to organize, send invitations, set up the donation table. Donation table. Of course there'd be a donation table. 3 weeks sounds perfect, I said. Grace pulled out her phone, started making notes, guest list, venue, catering, planning my living funeral like people plan birthday parties. I watched her work, watched her calculate, watched her plan to steal money from everyone we knew, and I smiled, because Grace was about to throw me the perfect party to expose everything. I found the eulogy on November 8th. Grace had gone to the grocery store. Making a list for the party, she'd said. Need to figure out catering. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, screensaver off, document open. Mark Memorial Final, Doc X. I sat down, started reading. Mark Thompson was a good man, not a great man. He'd be the first to tell you that. He was content with his small life, his small dreams, teaching high school history, grading papers on Friday nights, wearing the same 3 shirts in rotation. I kept reading, but Mark's greatest gift was understanding what I needed, even in death, especially in death. He put my needs first. He opened our marriage so I wouldn't be alone. He encouraged me to travel, to live, to embrace joy, even as he faced the end. 900 words. I counted 3 mentions of my name, 3. 47 mentions of I or me or my. The eulogy was about Grace, about Grace's journey, about Grace's pain, about Grace's courage in losing me, about Grace's bright future after I was gone. Mark would want me to be happy. He told me that near the end. He said, "Grace, don't let my death trap you. Go to Santorini, fall in love again, live for both of us." Those were his words, his gift to me. I'd never said those words, but I would. In this eulogy, I'd apparently said them. Grace was writing my deathbed wishes, putting words in my dying mouth, words that gave her permission to do everything she'd already planned. Mark would want me to be happy. She'd written it in past tense. I was already gone. I took photos of every page, backed them up, added them to the evidence folder, closed the laptop, went back to grading papers. Grace came home an hour later. "I got supplies for the party," she said. She was excited, happy. "This is going to be beautiful, Mark, a real celebration." "I'm sure it will be," I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Grace, listened to her breathe, thought about that eulogy. Mark would want me to be happy. Maybe she was right. Maybe I did want her to be happy, just not at my expense. Not at the expense of everyone who loved me, not at the expense of truth. I got up, went to the garage, wound my grandfather's watch, listened to it tick. 3 weeks until the party. 3 weeks until Grace tried to collect money from people who thought they were helping a dying man. 3 weeks until I came back from the dead. I smiled in the dark. Time to write my own ending. The invitations went out on November 10th. Grace designed them herself. Cream cardstock, elegant font. You're invited to celebrate the life of Mark Thompson. Join us in honoring Mark's courage, love, and legacy. November 30th, 7 p.m., Thompson Residence. In lieu of gifts, donations, welcome to support Mark's treatment journey. She ordered 60 invitations, sent them to everyone, my colleagues from school, her friends from work, her family, my family, Richard Wilson and his wife, Sophie, everyone who'd ever known us. Grace hung string lights in the backyard, set up tables, ordered catering, expensive catering, the kind with cloth napkins and real glassware. She bought a new dress, black, but not funeral black. Celebration black, she called it. She set up a donation box by the front door, wicker basket, handwritten sign in her perfect script, "Help Mark fight." She tied ribbons to the handles, blue ribbons, prostate cancer awareness color, except I didn't have prostate cancer. I didn't have any cancer, but the ribbons looked nice. I watched her prepare, watched her stage my living funeral, every detail perfect, every moment calculated. 2 days before the party, Brian came over. Grace was at work. We sat at the kitchen table. "Everything's ready," Brian said. He had a briefcase, thick, full of documents. Medical records, bank statements, email transcripts, voice recordings, timeline. I've got 3 copies, one for the DA, one for the insurance company, one for us. "And Dr. Martinez?" "She'll be there. She's willing to testify. Present the real medical records. Confirm you're healthy." "Sophie Wilson? Richard's wife?" Brian smiled. "I sent her an anonymous package yesterday. Select emails. She knows. She'll be at the party." "Police?" "On standby. I've got a contact in the DA's office. They're interested. Very interested. Fraud charges are ready to file. We just need to make the formal complaint." I looked at the briefcase. My evidence. My case. My marriage reduced to legal documents and voice recordings and proof of betrayal. Are you ready for this? Brian asked. Once we start, there's no going back. Grace will know. Richard will know. Everyone will know. I thought about that eulogy, about Grace writing my deathbed wishes, about her laughing with Richard about when I'd finally be gone. I'm ready, I said. Brian nodded, pulled out one more document. This is the restraining order. Once we expose everything, she can't access the house, the accounts, anything. She's out. Good. Mark. Brian looked at me. This is going to hurt. Not just Grace. Everyone, your friends, your family, they're going to see all of this. They're going to know what she did. They should know. They're coming to donate money to my fake cancer. They deserve to know the truth. Brian put his hand on my shoulder. Okay, then let's do this. Saturday night, 7 p.m. You come in at 7:03. I'll handle the rest. He left. I sat at the kitchen table, wound my grandfather's watch. 3 days, 72 hours. Then Grace's world ended. November 30th arrived cold and clear. Perfect Colorado evening. Stars coming out. Temperature dropping. I had spent the day away from the house. Told Grace I needed space to prepare mentally, I'd said, for tonight. She'd hugged me. I understand. This is hard, but it's going to be beautiful. Everyone loves you so much. I'd driven to Brian's house. We'd gone over everything one more time. Dr. Martinez arrived at noon, brought the medical files, went through every detail. I still can't believe someone did this, she said. Faked a terminal diagnosis for money. Believe it, I said. At 6 p.m., we got in Brian's car, drove toward my house. My stomach was twisting, not from fear, from anticipation. You okay? Brian asked. Yeah. You don't have to do this publicly. We could handle this quietly. File charges without the spectacle. I looked at him. She was going to do this publicly, collect money publicly, grieve publicly, rebuild her life publicly on my fake grave. She doesn't get quiet. Brian nodded. Okay then, let's give her public. We parked 3 blocks away, waited, watched my house fill with people, cars lining the street, guests arriving with cards and flowers and checks, friends I'd taught with for 15 years, carrying donations, coming to help me die. My sister Jennifer arrived, carrying a casserole. I could see her crying from 3 blocks away. Grace's mother arrived, tissues in hand, red eyes. Everyone believed it. Everyone thought I was dying. Everyone thought Grace was the devoted wife standing by her dying husband. At 6:45, Richard Wilson arrived with his wife, Sophie. She looked tense. He looked confident, walked in like he owned the place. He kind of did. In Grace's mind, half of it was already his. Brian checked his watch. 15 minutes. Dr. Martinez straightened her jacket. I've testified in court, done depositions. This is harder. This is different, I said. This is personal. At 6:58, Brian's phone buzzed. Text from his contact inside the house. Grace had just made a speech, thanking everyone for coming, for supporting us, for their generosity. The donation box was full. It's time, Brian said. We got out of the car, walked toward my house, my life, my death that never happened. I could hear voices, laughter, music, a party. My living funeral sounded like a celebration. We reached the front door. I could see inside 60 people, maybe more, everyone I knew, standing in my house, drinking wine, eating expensive catering, celebrating my death. Grace was in the center, black dress, perfect makeup, smiling through tears. The grieving wife, the brave survivor. She was holding a speech. I could see the paper in her hand. My eulogy. The one where I mentioned myself 3 times and her 47 times. She was about to read it. I opened the door. 7:03 p.m. exactly. The room didn't notice at first. Too many people. Too much noise. Then someone saw me. Mrs. Patterson from the English department. Her glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Then someone else. My sister Jennifer. Her face went white, then another and another. Silence spread like a wave. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses lowered, everyone turning, everyone staring. At me, standing in the doorway, not in a wheelchair, not with an oxygen tank, not dying, just standing, healthy, alive. Grace was mid-sentence about my courage. I interrupted. Funny thing about death, I said, my voice carried in the silent room. Turns out I'm not dying, never was. Grace's mouth hung open. The eulogy slipped from her fingers. Papers scattered on the floor. Mark? Her voice was small, confused. What are you? You're supposed to be dying? I finished. Yeah, about that. I walked into the room. Brian and Dr. Martinez followed. 60 pairs of eyes tracked us. Everyone, I said, thank you for coming. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for supporting my wife through this incredibly difficult time of my fake terminal illness. Murmurs, confusion. My sister pushed forward. Mark, what are you talking about? I looked at Grace. She was frozen, calculating. I could see her mind working, looking for the exit, the explanation, the spin. Grace, I said, would you like to tell everyone, or should I? Mark, you're not well. You're confused. The medication, I'm not on medication. I never was, because I never had cancer. I turned to Dr. Martinez. Dr. Elena Martinez, oncologist, 23 years. Would you like to present your findings? Dr. Martinez stepped forward. She had a folder, opened it, pulled out 2 pieces of paper. I examined Mr. Thompson 1 month ago, she said. Her voice was clear, professional. Full workup, CT scans, blood work, pulmonary function tests. Mr. Thompson is completely healthy. No cancer, no disease, no illness of any kind. She held up the papers. This is his real scan, clean, and this is the report his wife gave him, forged. The letterhead is fake. The signature is fake. Dr. Chen doesn't exist. The room erupted. Questions, exclamations. My sister was crying. Grace's mother was staring at Grace with an expression I couldn't read. Grace was shaking her head. No, that's not Mark. Where did you get these? Who told you? You did, I said. You told me everything. You just didn't know I was listening. Brian pulled out a laptop, set it up on the table where the donation box sat, connected it to our TV. The screen flickered on. I'd like to play something, Brian said. A conversation recorded November the 1st. Between Grace Thompson and Richard Wilson. He pressed play. Grace's voice filled the room, clear, unmistakable. I told him I needed space, that I needed to process my grief privately. He actually apologized for being too needy. Richard's voice. He apologized. Grace. He apologized for dying slowly. Can you believe that? Richard. That's actually sad. Grace. That's pathetic, but useful. He's giving me all the space I need to plan. I've been writing his eulogy. The room was dead silent. Everyone staring at the screen. At Grace. At Richard. The recording continued. 6 months, maybe 8 if we're unlucky. Then everything's ours. The house, the insurance, freedom. Grace was backing away, shaking her head. That's out of context. That's not what it sounds like. Then let's add context, Brian said. He clicked. A new slide appeared on the screen. Email chain. Projected 10 feet tall. Grace and Richard. Subject line, after MT. People started reading. Murmuring turned to gasps. Once he's gone, the house alone is worth $680K. $500K life insurance, about $1 free and clear. My sister was reading. Her face changed, horror to rage. She turned to Grace. You were planning his death? No. Grace's voice was high, desperate. No, we were planning for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario you created, I said, with a forged medical report on September 20th. The same day you withdrew $47,000 from our savings. Brian clicked again. bank statement, the wire transfer, Mediterranean luxury resorts. For Santorini, I said, for a 2-week trip with Richard, using money you stole under the pretense of my terminal illness. Grace's mother stood up. Grace Marie Thompson, tell me this isn't true. Grace was crying now, real tears or performance tears. Hard to tell anymore. Mom, I can explain. Explain what? I asked. Explain the fake diagnosis, explain the stolen money, explain the emails about my life insurance, explain the eulogy you wrote where you mentioned yourself 47 times and me 3 times. I walked to the donation box, picked it up, heavy with cash and checks. Explain this? The $12,000 our friends and family donated tonight to help me fight a cancer I never had. The room went silent. You could hear the projector humming. Mrs. Patterson spoke first. I gave $500. My sister, I gave $1,000. Grace's aunt, I wrote a check for $2,000 this morning. One by one, people calling out amounts, sacrifices, teachers who'd skipped their own bills, family members who dipped into retirement, friends who'd canceled vacations, all to help me survive something that wasn't real. Grace was shaking her head. I was going to use it for Mark, for treatments, for Santorini, I corrected, for designer clothes, for the new life you were planning with Richard. Richard. In the chaos, I'd almost forgotten him. He was standing in the corner, trying to disappear, but Sophie Wilson was standing in front of him. Sophie, Richard's wife, the woman I'd never met. She was holding a folder, her own folder. How long? She asked. Her voice was quiet, deadly quiet. Richard looked at her. Soph, not here. How long? Richard's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It's not what you think. Sophie opened the folder, started reading. Subject, after MT date, July 18th. Once he's gone, we can start over. You, me, Santorini, our future. She looked up. How long, Richard? 6 months, he whispered. Sophie nodded. Once, then she turned to the room. Richard Wilson, my husband, father of my 2 children, CEO of Wilson Marketing Group, having an affair with his employee, planning fraud, planning to abandon his family for a woman who was killing her husband with fake cancer. She dropped the folder, papers scattered. You're done, Richard, at home, at work, done. She walked out, slammed the door behind her. Richard stood there, destroyed, everyone staring, his reputation shredding in real time. He looked at Grace. This is your fault. You said it was foolproof. You said, shut up, Grace hissed. Just shut up. But Richard was panicking now, throwing Grace under the bus to save himself. She planned everything, the fake diagnosis, the timing. I just went along with it. I didn't know she'd actually... You helped her forge medical documents, Brian said, his lawyer voice, calm, clinical. You discussed inheritance fraud. You encouraged financial theft. You're an accessory, Mr. Wilson, to felony fraud. Richard's face went gray. Brian turned to the room. I've contacted the district attorney's office. Fraud charges will be filed Monday morning. The insurance company has been notified, and every dollar in that donation box is evidence of fraud. It will be returned to its donors. He turned to Grace. Grace Thompson, you have the right to remain silent. You can't do this, Grace screamed. Mark, please, I love you. I was scared. I made mistakes, but I love you. I looked at her, really looked at her. Grace, my wife of 12 years, the woman I'd trusted, the woman I'd loved, the woman who'd killed me on paper so she could steal my life insurance. You don't love me, I said quietly. You never did? You loved what I could give you, and when I couldn't give you enough, you decided to take it anyway. Grace reached for the donation box, desperate, trying to grab it, trying to salvage something. Brian blocked her hand. That's evidence now. Every dollar in there was given under false pretenses. That's fraud, Grace. You stole from dying hope. Grace collapsed. actually collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, screaming, her perfect mask shattered, everyone watching, everyone seeing, the devoted wife, the brave survivor, the grieving widow, all of it lies. My sister came to me, hugged me. I'm so sorry, I should have seen, no one saw, I said. She was good, she's been good for years. Mrs. Patterson was crying. I can't believe, Mark, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. You came here to help someone you thought was dying. That's beautiful. She's the one who corrupted it. Police arrived at 7:47. Brian had called them 15 minutes earlier. They'd been waiting outside. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They helped Grace up, read her rights. Grace wasn't listening, still screaming, still crying. This isn't fair. Mark, tell them it was a mistake. The officers led her toward the door. Grace fought, struggled, her perfect composure completely gone. I gave you everything, she screamed at me. 12 years. I gave you 12 years. You gave me fake cancer, I said. You gave me a death sentence. You gave me 6 months to say goodbye to a life I didn't need to lose. That's what you gave me. They took her out. The door closed behind them. The party stood in shocked silence. Then my sister hugged me again. You're alive. You're actually alive. Yeah, I said, I'm alive. And for the first time in months, I felt it. If you've ever had to reclaim your life from someone who stole it, if you've ever come back from being counted out, you know this moment. This moment where you realize you're still here, still standing, still breathing. Share your story below, not for me, for the person reading comments right now who needs to know it's possible. The guests left slowly, some apologizing, some crying, some just confused. Everyone taking their donations back, cash and checks redistributed. Richard left without a word, broken. His wife had left, his reputation destroyed, his life imploding. By 9 p.m., the house was empty, just me and Brian and Dr. Martinez. That was intense, Dr. Martinez said. That was necessary, Brian corrected. He started packing up the evidence. Mark, the DA will want to meet with you Monday. Grace will probably be out on bail by tomorrow. Stay with family for a few days. Don't engage with her. Okay. And this. Brian handed me a document. Restraining order. Already filed. She can't contact you. Can't come within 500 feet. Can't access any joint accounts. I took the paper, felt the weight of it. You did the right thing, Dr. Martinez said. She put her hand on my arm. I know it doesn't feel good, but you did the right thing. They left. I stood alone in my house, my quiet house, string lights still up, donation box empty on the table, half-eaten catering on plates. I walked through the rooms, saw my life, 12 years, built here, destroyed here, resurrected here. I went to the bedroom, Grace's side of the closet still full, her perfume on the dresser, Chanel No. 5. I didn't touch any of it. I went to the spare bedroom, found the box labeled Mark's Things, pulled out my grandfather's watch, strapped it on my wrist, wound it. The ticking sounded like freedom. Monday morning, I went back to school. My students didn't know yet. The news hadn't spread. To them, I was still dying, still fighting, still their brave Mr. Thompson. I walked into first period, AP US History. 23 juniors, all staring at me with those careful faces teenagers get when they don't know if they should mention the cancer. Mr. Thompson, Sarah Mitchell said, should you be here? I set my bag down, wound my grandfather's watch, let them hear it tick. I'm exactly where I should be, I said. We spent the period on the Civil War, Reconstruction, the idea that nations, like people, can rebuild after devastating loss. At lunch, word started spreading. Teachers had seen the news. Grace Thompson arrested for fraud, medical forgery, theft, conspiracy. They came to me. Quiet conversations. Are you okay? What happened? Is it true? It's true, I said. All of it. And I'm okay. I'm more okay than I've been in months. Mrs. Patterson brought me soup. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, just be glad I'm not dead. She laughed, cried, hugged me. By final period, everyone knew. My students knew. They came in silent, staring. I stood at the front of the room. So, you probably heard. Silence. Then Sarah Mitchell raised her hand. Mr. Thompson, how do you make every day count after something like that? I looked at my grandfather's watch, the one Grace tried to donate, the one that said, make every second count. You live like someone you love is watching, I said, not watching to judge you, watching to see if you'll choose truth over comfort, watching to see if you'll stand up when you're knocked down. You live like your grandfather's watching from wherever he is, proud that you're still ticking. I wound the watch. Let them hear it. Time is the only thing we can't get back, but we can choose who deserves ours going forward. Every second, every minute, every day, we choose. The bell rang. Students filed out. Sarah Mitchell stopped at my desk. I'm glad you're not dead, Mr. Thompson. Me too, Sarah, me too. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom. Grace pled guilty. 5 counts of fraud, 1 count of forgery, 1 count of theft, 3 years minimum. Richard Wilson pled out separately. 2 years, lost his company, lost his family, lost everything. The judge looked at Grace. Mrs. Thompson, do you have anything to say? Grace stood, thinner now, tired. The Polish gone. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice was small. I don't know why I did it. I just wanted more. I wanted a bigger life. And Mark was content with small. I thought if I could just get to Santorini, if I could just start over, I'd be happy. The judge looked at her. You forged a terminal illness. You stole from your husband and your community. You planned to profit from insurance fraud. All for Santorini. All for feeling alive, Grace whispered. The judge sentenced her. 3 years, restitution, probation after release. Grace looked at me as they led her away, mouthed something, maybe sorry, maybe I loved you. Hard to tell. I didn't mouth anything back. Outside the courthouse, Brian stood with me. How do you feel? He asked. Tired, I said, but free. You are free. The divorce is final. The house is yours. The accounts are yours. She gets nothing. She gets 3 years to think about what she did. Think she'll change? I looked at the courthouse. I don't know, but that's not my problem anymore. We walked to the parking lot. Denver sun bright. April warm. What now? Brian asked. Now I live, I said. Actually live, not pretend to die, not pretend to be okay. Just live. Any plans? I looked at my grandfather's watch, wound it. Maybe Santorini, eventually, when I'm ready. See what Grace thought was worth killing for. Brian laughed. Let me know. I'll come with. He drove away. I stood in the parking lot, alive, healthy, free. Time is the only thing we can't get back, but we can choose who deserves ours going forward. If this story reminded you who you give your time to matters, remember, every day is a gift. Every second counts. Choose wisely. 1 year later, I stood at that same overlook, the one where I'd proposed to Grace 13 years ago, Rocky Mountain National Park, sunrise. I wasn't alone. Jennifer, my sister, stood next to me. She'd moved closer after everything, wanted to be near family. Brian was there, still my best friend, still my lawyer, but mostly my friend. Dr. Martinez came too. We'd stayed in touch. She'd told me once that my case reminded her why she became a doctor, to save lives, even from the living. And there was someone new, Amy, a librarian I'd met at a school function 6 months ago. She liked history, liked quiet, liked men who wore grandfathers' watches, and taught teenagers about Reconstruction. We weren't serious yet, but we were something real, something built on truth instead of lies. The sun came up over the mountains, pink and gold and orange. I wound my grandfather's watch. The ticking was steady, constant, real. Grandpa Joe would be proud, Jennifer said. Yeah, I said, I think he would. Amy took my hand. What are you thinking about? Time, I said. How I almost gave it all away. How Grace almost stole it. How I got it back. And now? Amy asked. Now I spend it right, I said. On people who deserve it. On moments that matter. On truth. The sun climbed higher. A new day. A real day. A day I almost didn't get to see. I looked at my watch. Grandpa Joe's watch. The engraving on the back. Make every second count. I'm counting, I whispered. Every single one. We stood there watching the sunrise. 5 people who'd survived Grace's lies. Who'd come out the other side. Alive. Free. Ticking forward. I wound the watch. 1 full turn. Tick, tick, tick. Time, as it turns out, was always mine.